You know, I was watching a video on the internet of this like doctor coming out and saying that in order for a man's prostate to stay healthy, you have to go and jack off 22 times a month. I call bullshit. You know, you lose a whole bunch of energy just off one ejaculation per freaking month. That's a whole bunch of energy that you just freaking waste. And you can kind of like feel it as your heart's beating, and all that energy is just being completely fucking released. You can't do that shit. Talking about, I guess Harvard was the one that made that freaking study. You wouldn't be able to go to work. Even if you were able to go to freaking work and you jacked yourself off 22 times a month, you'd be struggling on a daily basis, and then eventually you would start stalling. That's what you do. I don't think that should be considered as any kind of an amount of option. You go on YouTube and you search out, hey, you know, a lot of people believe that's a ball-faced ass fucking lie, because you go on YouTube, you watch those semen retention videos, and they say, oh, well, the energy that you have stored in your body is going to keep your prostate healthy. And that makes sense. You do your little exercise, you won't get no prostate cancer. You eat healthy. And for any man, I don't think that it's a good idea, in order for you to be able to just go and be able to successfully go through life and jack off 22 times a fucking month. That's a bunch of fucking energy. You'd be almost jacking off every day, man. Can't just do that shit. I forgot to turn my light on. Especially, after you go and you jack off, then you go to frickin' work, or you go out into the environment outside, and every female that you encounter either has an egotistical power trip, lower nature females, to think in their brains pussy's power off feeling on your lower energy, or higher nature females thinking in their brains that what they are is a saint compared to you, because you ejaculated, you orgasmed, and they didn't orgasm, and so they think of themselves as a saint. Lower nature females just think in their brains that it'd be easy for themselves to be able to manipulate you with vagina. And even if you were to go and find a platonic relationship with some female, she's just going to think in her brain that what feminine energy should be considered as is power, and it doesn't matter how high quality or even more high quality it is than hers, that she'd still think in her brain that what feminine energy should be considered as is power, and that she'd be sparing it to you, or whatever the fuck she thought. Psh, as if what you as a man's supposed to do is to stand there and take that shit, and allow for her to think that shit. What you're supposed to do is to come up to a woman and beg for a relationship, and allow for her to feel desired from you coming up to her and begging, and taking the risk of getting sent some form of an amount of a harassment case sent to the police, or sent to you by the police. Another higher nature power trip I just came across on YouTube is this one young woman coming out and talking about, oh, you don't have to chase after men, you can attract. And she said that well, when you grow your energy and your energy's high, then you'll be able to attract a man with provider energy, and men want to serve women. Any man on planet the fuck Earth that goes and agrees for himself that he would want to serve women is nothing more but a traitor to his own gender and a simp. And not to mention that if everybody decided to just go and attract and not chase, and nobody chases and everybody just goes with like, oh, I'm gonna attract my soulmate and he's gonna, like how women think, he's gonna come up to me and beg to pay my bills, beg to become my own personal bodyguard, beg to pay for my living expenses, lavish lifestyle, beauty projects, expensive name brand items. Simps. That's what she described that had came out her mouth. It's up to you as a man if you'd like to go and disrespect yourself to come up to one of these females and pursue or not. Pursue, and I've done heard this other woman on TikTok come out and say, oh, pursuing means for the man to come up to the woman and beg 5 times so that she can reject the shit out of him 5 times, and then maybe on the 6th time she might not send him some form of an amount of a harassment case sent to him by the police, depending on how she feels. The female gender's enlarged egos of just thinking in their brains that what men should be is desperate in terms of how they're neurologically wired. Also the narcissistic man has been told by their mothers, hey, the reasoning as to why women don't want to come up to men to be the one to beg and pursue is because they're scared. Hold on. They're scared and they're shy. So you have to be the ones to come up to them and beg. And they're the ones that get the most amount of vagina. And because they've been told by their mothers that, they have actually believed that shit. And so when they go and they pursue after women, and they say, oh, you have a fat ass and that you're cute, and they just say, I want to shove my cock inside your vagina and talk to women. They know which women aren't going to go and send them to jail and which women aren't going to go and send them to jail, and they're just good at that shit. But because they've been told by their mothers, just as well as nice guys, they kind of like somehow mistaken how their sex drive works. They think, oh, women are sexually attracted physically to me because I'm getting tons of vagina. That's not the fucking case. You're giving them their validation, self-esteem, and ego boost to allow for them to feel desired, which is how the female gender sex drive works. So you think that is physical sexual attraction, but no, it's not. All that black pill bullshit, it's bullshit. And the reasoning as to why it is bullshit is because muscles, 6 foot tall, and chiseled jaw, and all that black pill shit, it's just nothing more but for the female gender to take a look at and be like, well, this guy looks masculine enough in order to become my own personal bodyguard. So I can have my power trip that I have my 6 foot tall beast with my leash around his neck and my thumb directly over his head. And all I have to do is to push directly down on top of it and get him to simp down to then go to the next step. I've already got a boyfriend with muscles and 6 foot tall to become my own personal bodyguard. Now the next step is to go into the attempt of trying to get this man to pay for my bills. With the narcissistic man, all he wants is vagina, And so the lady already becomes so addicted to her egotistical power trips of thinking in her brain what mankind should be is desperate, so deep in on the neurological level that she can't break free from that addiction with the narcissistic man saying that she has a fat ass and that she's cute. And narcissism comes at different levels. Sometimes even the narcissistic man gets cheated on, and she finds a more narcissistic man. That's better at giving her egotistical power for validation and self-esteem boost to think in her brain that what mankind should be is desperate. And even the narcissistic man does. You ever see those homeless men? Oh yeah, any homeless man at the current moment, any men. One thing that you have to put yourself into the understanding is that the reasoning as to why they're homeless is because they weren't the higher nature man. They weren't the man that, rejected the ideology that what pussy should be considered as his power, and they became homeless because they were, dibbling and dabbling too much inside some vagina. Which then made them lose energy to prevent themselves from being able to financially provide for themselves. I'm just saying. And that's what I have to say about all of that.